Hello. So today I'm going to introduce you to Google Slides. If you have never used it before, you want to sign into Google and then go to your apps. Hit Google Drive, New, Slides. You can work from a blank presentation or a template. So we'll work with a blank presentation. Up here is where you title your presentation. So let's call this Slides 101. And then if I wanted to save it in a specific spot, I can go to my drive and then pick the folder where I want this to live. You can change the theme. And then you add slide. It's a lot like Microsoft PowerPoint if you're more comfortable using that. You can think of it that way, but the nice thing about this is that it saves as you work and it's all on the cloud. So if you wanted to change the master slide, let's say you wanted the font to be different on every slide, but you didn't want to go individually slide by slide making changes. You go to the master slide, and if you select all text, you can change it and you'll see that all the slides change. If I wanted all of the headers to have bold typeface, they all change. All right? So that's how you do that. Let's go back to this. So as a teacher, a lot of the times I will use instruction for note-taking. So in my case, I am an art teacher, so I did a unit on Art Nouveau. This was displayed on the board when they came in. They had a packet that they started with that day. Anywhere that you would see a bold text is where there was a blank in their packet. So if a student was absent, I could, let's say they're absent just for the first day, and I wanted them to have the notes. So I could hit Shift and click on the first 6 slides, hit Copy, go to an empty slide presentation, hit Paste. I'm not going to link the slideshows. And then I could put Day 1 notes. Share. So if I shared it with them so they can edit it, that means they could make changes. Can comment is so they can ask me questions, or can view, meaning they can just look at it. If you made a shareable link, that means anyone with the link can look at it. So let's do can comment, and then if I shared it with a student, I could type in their email and share it with them. You can also post your notes to Google Classroom, and students can look at it on there. So you can also use this to monitor student progress if they're working on their own slide presentation. So I have one student in particular that really struggles to get started and to stay motivated. So when they had to do an artist research project, I picked an artist for him. I set it up in a pretty straightforward way. And then I shared it with him and his resource teacher so that she could also monitor his work when they were in class and help him along if he was struggling. If you are a cooperating teacher, or if you have English language learners in your classroom, you can have a teacher add notes, translate it, make a copy, and translate it and share it with that ELL student. You can also add speaker notes at the bottom, so if you were to work with another teacher and you wanted to make sure that you both touched on certain topics, you wanted to make sure there were certain discussion points in the presentation within the classroom, you could keep that down here. You can also share lessons with colleagues. So I had a mentor this year as a first-year teacher, so sometimes I would share in slideshows with her so that she could give me feedback. Also, examples of student work or classroom notes. So a formal way to use this for your students is to do a research project. So in my classroom, I had students research an artist during Women's History Month, a female artist. I wanted to note that students are supposed to be 13 and older when using Google Slides. So if you're an elementary teacher or middle school, you may want to just use this for your own instruction. But if a student is using this, so an example that I did was Frida Kahlo. So this was my presentation as an example to show students how it should look. And then it was I added a slide that was a basic layout. So then when I posted this in Google Classroom, they could see how and what to do. You can also make them do a how-to guide to practice technical writing. And if you wanted to check for understanding for classroom procedures or to explain a process, you could do that. So for ebooks, I have a link here to link you to different ways to format your document to make it compatible with a book. Also doing a magazine, a zine, or a newsletter that comes out every so often, and a portfolio. So for me, my students have work from the entire year, and then they could make a Google Slides, put a picture of each of their artworks, and make comments about their pieces. They can also add information for like their inspiration, issues that are important to them, incorporate a slide that's an artist statement. A formative assessment, so if you did a do now and you shared a slideshow with 20 of your students in your class, you could put a prompt in the first slide and then have 21 blank slides. A slide number could be assigned to a student. So if Bobby had slide 6, he could respond on slide 6, and then once he was done, he could comment by right-clicking, hitting comment on Sally's slide, and then another student could reply to this, and then there's threads on the side. And then you can also display all the work on the projector. Another informal way to do it is a reflective journal. So in my undergrad, when I researched the subtopic of preservation, when we were all supposed to be looking up ways to incorporate memory into a lesson, I had preservation. So I put in, this has like almost 60 slides in it of different themes, quotes, artists, project ideas to use with students, things that I thought were relevant to the project as just like an informal way to keep track of things. You can also use it for extra credit projects. So for my students who either didn't do a project, they were absent a lot, I could have them do an artist research project and then share it with me rather than presenting it to the class. And then online, there are a lot of graphic organizers available for you, templates. You can just copy and paste them into slides. So this is an example of one where you can move things around and the shapes are connected so that the lines move with it. I'm just going to show you. So if I found a template online, it's a Google drawing that I found from a website, I can select all of it, hit Control-C to copy it, go back to my slideshow, Control-V, and then I can make it so it fits, change the title. I wanted to compare Frida Kahlo and Kara Walker. I could put things that are similar about them here, and students can work collaboratively too. So if a student A made this and then shared it with students B and C, all three of them could work simultaneously and add information. And then here I have lists of the standards for students and for educators, and then this is a link to some of those templates. So the templates include bubble maps, compare and contrast, matrices, flowcharts, fair models, storyboards, and timelines. I hope this video was helpful for you to get started with your own slides presentation and also sparked some ideas for how your students can work on their own presentations in class.